service. We're so happy to have you with us today at this meditation service. As we chant, I will sing a line and then you can repeat it wherever you are, or just take the words and let it go in and through you, into your very being. We are so blessed to be able to go into that silence, to have the real food that we need to have the best life that we can have on this planet. So as we chant, just let yourself relax and just think about what you're saying. I open to love, I open to love. I open to love, I open to love. Inside, waiting for me. Inside, waiting for me. I open to love. I open to love. Inside, waiting for me. Inside, waiting for me. To free me to be. To free me to be the friend I want to be, the friend I want to be. Oh. through me. Pure light, pure light, radiant light, radiant light, radiant light, radiant light. Spread love to all, divine love to all. Spread love to all. Spread love to all. Divine love to all. Divine love to all. Love is the source. Love is the source of all life, of all life, of all life, of all life. Pure love, pure love, pure love, pure love, radiant love, radiant love, radiant love, radiant love. Let light flow through me. Let light flow through me. Let light flow through me.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Just a word about what we're about doing now in our ministry. We had anticipated opening to bring people back into our services on the 31st of May. But according to the governor's report today, he is calling for churches not to open. And if they were to open, they could only have less than 9 people or less. And that includes their staff and the ministers. So at this point, we are planning something special for the 31st, but it won't be opening up the physical facility for people to come in. We are thinking about doing an outside service in our parking lot, and you'll hear more of that, about that as we get it put together. We only found out today that the governor of the state is calling for us to be more focused on the regulations again, because it seems the numbers are spiking here in Colorado. Also, we are having our Friday noon meeting. We can discuss whatever you want at that on Zoom. So if you don't have the Zoom code, you can just email info@unityofboulder.com and you'll get a reply giving you the code, so you can tune in with us on Friday at noon. And again on Sunday at noon, we do the ministers' wrap meeting, open discussion. And since we are still going to be seemingly now not opening the doors, in a sense, to the physical ministry here in the building, just wanted to remind you that our expenses remain almost the same. So if you can be of some help, just hit that donation button and or look upon all the different ways we have online to tithe. We appreciate your helping us continue to do the ministry that we do. I just recently wrote a short note to some people I know. And in it I said that if you want to improve your life and you're not at that enlightened place yet, if you're enlightened now, you're going to know what I'm saying is true. If you're not enlightened, you're going to possibly at least think about what I'm about to say. But you can improve your life in every way when you come to fully realize, I have no control over the world. Just say that to yourself and see how close you are to living from that awareness. I have no control over the world. And if you're not quite there in that presence of enlightenment, try to imagine what it would be like, the grand and profound peace that would come with recognizing that you do not have to save anyone. You don't have to fix anyone but yourself. So if you look at your life and you're honest with yourself, which is not an easy thing to do either, but if you're honest with yourself, you may catch yourself trying to fix other people, and that doesn't work. The onus of salvation, the opportunity to reach that divine kingdom of God in the midst and all around us occurs through the transformation within, being so tuned in to that awareness of the divine oneness in every person, in every place, in every condition. In holding that in one's own awareness and living from that in one's own awareness, we derive huge prosperity, peace of mind, healing, joy, insight. So it's necessary then, if we are going to proceed with that yoga of the masters, it's necessary then to not try to fix all those people who seem to be a problem unto themselves or unto you or unto life in general. Just let them go and hold them in that blessed place of sending peace to them and not trying to fix the way they think or try to fix the actions that they take. Just be awake and aware and have peace yourself and not be in conflict with what you see around you. Look past the seeming foibles and limitations of others and just allow them to be, and let your silent, secret blessings go out to them. You will find yourself entering such a space of enlivenment, joy, peace, understanding. That is the yoga of the masters. That is the yoga of everyone who is really seeking to enter into a life truly worth living. So that's what our journey is all about. And if you want a little extra love while you're on the journey, find your way into the extra mile. It is in the extra mile. It is going beyond the reasoning mind that wants to simply preserve its own separate self-interest. It's stepping beyond that in some way to serve and be of help and be overly considerate. And it is in doing that, that's what they refer to as the extra mile. Let me define that for you for a minute. This is written in the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. And the Master is speaking to those who are the Israelites. And at that time, there was an edict from the Romans. And the Romans were actually occupying Israel. They were ruling Israel. And an edict went out that if a Roman needed an Israelite to carry his bags, then he would have to carry those bags. And the Master of Life is speaking to the Israelites who are naturally, inwardly feeling resistance to this edict, that they would have to carry the Romans' baggage to wherever they had to go. This is naturally something that they would have to deal with. And the Master is speaking to this when he says, if you are asked to go 1 mile with one of these Romans and his baggage, go with him too. It's written that way. If you are required to go 1 mile, go 2 miles. And This is an interesting way of approaching that particular edict in that historic period. It certainly is one way of looking at doing more than you're expected to do, but that is exactly what this universal truth is relating. To do more than what life is expecting you to do is to find your way into what is called the extra mile. And it is in the extra mile that one encounters the consciousness of God. Anyone who practices this discovers a renewed energy that comes when you step out beyond the natural resistance of the self-centered mind to do a deed, a necessary goodness, service, or something that requires more of you than you would ordinarily do. This is where you find your way into that expanded space of God consciousness, where it all begins to make sense. Because in that space, you begin to see it's all God. And whatever is happening in life is calling you to transcend your limited, isolated resistance to life and what it is calling you to deal with. This is how we transcend the thinking of the world. And it is the transcending of the thinking of the world that we are involved in. And it is in the transcending of the normal thinking of the world that we feel enlivened, rejuvenated, filled with love, filled with divine peace, capable of doing more without any second thought. You see, you see how different this truth is than the one we were born into, the definition of life that we were born into and raised in and educated in, all seemingly to bring us to a place where we would be able to find happiness. And so we're questing all the time to find happiness, to find true peace and security, to find true love. We're questing all the time for that because we were born into the idea of the world, that it can be found outside of ourselves. We were raised in that and educated in that. And the natural assumption that accompanies that is that, well, if I could make more money, then I could have more control over the conditions and circumstances that confront me in the world. Or if I became popular, I could still have that control by virtue of my personality. Or any number of things we're trying to make happen in the world so that we can control the world. But if we're awake in the process of living, we will discover that I cannot control the world. The world does what the world does. I can with a preference try to make things as best I can on the path. I can have some goals. I can aspire to some things I'd like to have happen and occur. That's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. Unless I am still making that a demand within my own mind, if I'm still believing that I have to get that job, or get that money, that amount of money, or get that raise, or get that house, or get that soulmate, or get this or get that outside myself so that I will feel whole finally and have control over my life, you are following a false definition of life. And you can follow it as long as you wish. There's no extra penalty that comes to us for pursuing the treasures and pleasures of the world. There's nobody who's going to punish us, and there's no punishment at all from the divine creator that is life itself. We're not punished for the errors of our thinking. We're punished by them. In other words, to the degree that we are following this false concept of life, we are living in conflict. We're living for more frustration. And we're living for more alienation. Because we don't have control, no matter how much money we make or how popular we become. You can see people that have become hugely popular and hugely rich. Look at these superstars. If you get any backstory on them, you find out that so often they're simply hooked on drugs to try to find some peace of mind. You know, the thing comes to mind, it was such a glaring, terrible thing that when Michael Jackson was preparing his last world tour, "What About Us" was the title of it. Fortunately, they filmed this, the rehearsals of this incredible show that was going to tour the world. Because Michael Jackson, whatever else you may think about him, was a master talent, an amazing talent. And here he is doing this rehearsal. And if you watch him in the rehearsals, you see what an affable person he is. What a wonderful guy he is, and the way he treats the people working with him and for him. And then he would go home after the rehearsals, and he would try to get some sleep. Exhausted as he was, working all day to get these numbers and these routines to work out the way he needed them to, he would go home and try to get some sleep. And naturally, he was taking different sleeping drugs to get to sleep. And finally, his personal doctor that was looking after him, he requested of that doctor to give him a shot of a very highly speculative medication that could give you sleep. And of course, we know the outcome of that. But can you imagine being so talented as he was and not to have the ability to sleep, just to let go, close your eyes and wander away from the necessities of life that are upon you all day long. And of course, he wanted it and needed it so bad. So we have these examples all the time. If you don't take anything else away from this, at least contemplate. You know what I'm saying? Contemplate what is being said here. That you can't acquire wholeness by collecting or aspiring or, chasing after the pleasures and treasures of the world. Keep them in balance. Balance is the one thing you cannot get too much of in life. Keep the things of the world in balance with your spiritual practice, understanding, and your goal for the enlightened life. In so doing, you are sure to be happier than you've ever been before. The problem we get into, of course, is we don't keep the balance. We are drawn away by the temptations of the physical life. And we're drawn away certainly by the media that never stops bombarding us with the false definition of life. showing us sometimes, I don't know, it's not so, I don't know if it's as prevalent these days, but it was certainly prevalent not too long ago, where the hero solves all the problems by shooting everybody and going on to win the girl. He goes on to live happily ever after. That never happened. Not with all the movies that have tried to say it has happened. It has never happened. Never once has happened. So I'm going to do a lot of movies someday. Well, I'm going to pick it up right after the hero shoots everybody and wins the girl of his dreams. Then I'm going to follow them in their life together and make a real movie about what happens to the hero. And then you're going to find out he's in he'll wind up committing himself to a mental institution to get away from her, or the vice versa. So I will get around to making those movies. If I can't do it in this lifetime, I'll do it in my next lifetime. And I haven't got a thought of where I am right now in this talk. But I do want to say this. The extra mile is where you find the consciousness of God. It means not just stepping beyond the illusionary, isolated desires of that self that wants to just receive and not necessarily give. But if you step out a little bit and you give more and you do more and you do better as it's required of you, you will find an energy that has been latent in your life. You will find a joy and a peace you never recognized before. And it was never yours before, unless you have been doing this. Because if you do more for your spouse, or do better, or if you do more on the job that you're working, or do it better, do it to the best that you can, every day, without second thoughts about how much work you can get out of, because that just makes life more miserable. The extra mile, when you resist it, and you're in it, and you have to do it, if you have to do that job, and you're resisting it, you are making that job miserable. So, just check out whenever you're having resistance to what you are doing. And that's Eckhart Tolle's whole process, is to be aware if you're resisting what you presently are doing. And it might be situations in which it's something that you're required to do. But if you're resisting it, you're making it even worse. If you'll just relax and go the extra mile, do it better. Give it more time. Give it more thought. Give it more consideration. And so do that job better. Give more to it. And the same thing with anything else in your life. Whether it's family or whether it's some projects, whether it's service in your community or in your church. Don't do it to be seen of man or mankind. Do it wholeheartedly. Learn to live wholeheartedly in the present moment, so that whatever the present moment is providing for you, it is not providing it separate from you. It is providing it with your awareness in it. And if you honor it and do what is there to do wholeheartedly, you're entering that extra mile where you'll soon have a glimmer of knowing. The more you enter into doing your moment to moment, openly, wholeheartedly, the more insight, the more truth, the more freedom and love will come into you. And that glimmer of insight is the opening to enlightened life. Let me share this with you from Master Eckhart Tolle. This is from his great book, The Power of Now, page 131, paragraph 2. With the acknowledgement and acceptance of the facts of life also comes a degree of freedom from them. For example, when you know there is disharmony and you hold that knowing, though through your knowing a new factor has come in, and the disharmony cannot remain unchanged. When you know you are not at peace, your knowing creates a still space that surrounds your non-peace in a loving and tender embrace, and then transmutes your non-peace into peace. I'll share that with you once again. With the acknowledgement and acceptance of the facts of life, that is, as life is happening, these are the facts, this is what's going on. With the acknowledgement of what's going on, not resisting, running, fearing, just acknowledging, this is what is. Also comes a degree of freedom from the facts of life. For example, when you know there is disharmony and you hold that knowing, through your knowing, a new factor has come in and the disharmony cannot remain unchanged. When you know you are not at peace, your knowing creates a still space that surrounds your non-peace in a loving and tender embrace, and then transmutes your non-peace into peace. You see, this is bestowing the high insight and consciousness of God, the glimmer of knowing that comes as you relax and release any resistance to what the moment is presenting. So we're going to do one of our spiritual practices, as we always do on Wednesday night. We're going to listen to our Tibetan bowls, which are calibrated to energize us and raise our vibrations. And as we listen to them and just let go and be okay and allow, wow, there's a word. There's a holy word, allow. Just allow life in this moment to be okay the way it is. So you can use that as your affirmation when we go into the silence. Allowing this moment to be okay just the way it is. let us now take a few moments to pray for those whose names have been submitted to our prayer lists. If you know the person whose name is called, just see them healed physically, mentally, and spiritually, completely whole in body, mind, and awareness. If you don't know the person whose name is called, just see the name in light.
Sherry and Larry Gott, Colin Jones, Tim, Sandy, Lori, Dan, Charlotte Ingold, Tracy McIntyre, Brandy, Gail Wagner, Kathy Baker, Bonnie McDonald, Hank, Evan, Daniel, Cedric, Judith Bordeaux, Steve Taylor, Dennis Drake, April, Christine, Sabina, Suzanne, Steve Taylor, S. Daniel, Jean and Sandy, the coronavirus patients, United States government, the air, water, earth, all life on this planet. And let's see this healing light surrounding the plant, the prayer box, and all the people that have been submitted throughout this month. We see them healed physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Just recognize with me now the presence of this divine awareness being shared with everyone in a Boulder community. And being shared with everyone in the state of Colorado. Everyone awakening to the joy and the peace of sharing in the awareness of the presence of God throughout these United States of America. Recognizing, awakening, experiencing the divine insight and peace of the awareness of God in every person, in every place, in every condition, throughout all the continents of the world. And we begin to recognize what we have always referred to as the new age of enlightened humanity. And that divine awareness affecting all the relationships of the creatures and the people on this planet Earth, bringing about healing, love, understanding, all the marine life, all the waterways being purified by the consciousness of humanity's recognition that we are all one in this divine intelligence and love, and everything around us is worthy of consideration, peace, forgiveness, healing, love. There it is. Forgetting the illusionary, false definition of life and entering into the divine moment-to-moment awareness of the love that is God. As we pray, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and God is love. To this we say, Amen, Amen, Amen. Just a reminder, before we have our final beautiful song from our beautiful Norma, that we're still in the world here to some degree. We have to pay our bills. So if you can, help us pay our bills. Find that little place on your screen where you donate and share something. Let us share a little something so that we can continue our work here in Unity of Boulder. Thank you.
Gayu wani gayu we, gayu wani gayu we hi o ho ali awine, gai nawia heya. Gayu wani gayu we, gayu wani gayu we hi o ho ali awine, gai nawia heya. Ho, ho, ho.
Thank you for tuning in. Good night to all. Hold a little prayer for the coronavirus, abating and going away so we can get back to our fellowship and our friendship and our lives. Thank you and good night.